WWE produced a 5-part series on The Undertaker called Undertaker: The Last Ride, and this is Chapter 1. They're having the conversation about The Undertaker in the intro of the documentary about when it's time to retire, when it's time to go. Taker, he says it's for him to decide. He wants to go on a high note. He wants to have a great match and retire. He had a great match with AJ Styles at WrestleMania 36, but we're not going to get to there, so I don't think he's retired yet. But he wants to go on a high note, and hopefully he gets to do that. We see plenty of stars who are going to be a part of this. You see Ric Flair, you see Shawn Michaels, Edge, Triple H, numerous big names who are going to be in this. AJ Styles. Great title card. Undertaker: The Last Ride, Chapter 1, The Greatest Fear. We start off in 2017, which is 3 days before WrestleMania 33. That's when The Undertaker contacts Vince McMahon. He's talking about what happened to him. He said he used to be a tough son of a bitch, and what happened. We're going to get into that. From what I've heard, I think it had a lot to do with that match with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 30. I think he lost his confidence after that match. We see him interacting with Jimmy Hart and Jim Cornette, I think, at the Hall of Fame before WrestleMania 33. They show him contacting or talking to Roman Reigns at the desk at a hotel. It's kind of funny because they can't keep kayfabe, and he's going to face Roman Reigns that weekend. Taker admits he can't work a full schedule anymore, and he says he would never imagine how successful his character would be. And then we go to Survivor Series 1990 when he first debuts, which is really cool. We see Foley, who's on this documentary as well. Bret Hart talks about The Undertaker. He says he's like Frankenstein. You couldn't do much to him. They show the highlight when Hulk Hogan at Survivor Series, the year after Undertaker debuts in 91. He debuted in 90. And in that match, he would beat Hogan. They show highlights from the match with Yokozuna and that casket match at the Rumble in 94, I believe. Now we get to the streak, and they say it happened organically. It just happened when he didn't really expect it. Someone brought it up to him, and that's how the streak happened. I think the match with Ric Flair is when they 18s when they first started to acknowledge the streak, if I'm not mistaken. And I think since then that was it up until WrestleMania 30. We see Batista, and he says he thinks he earned The Undertaker's respect when they had the match at WrestleMania 23. And that was a really great match. I thought they actually had the better match than John Cena and Shawn Michaels on that same day. I thought they stole the show. And then we have Edge. He talked about his match with Undertaker the next year at 24. And with that match, you also had Randy Orton talk about his match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania 21 too. But with Edge, I heard Michelle McCool say there was talks of having Edge break the streak, but Edge is the one who said, no, I shouldn't break the streak. I'm not sure if that's 100% true, or at least it was on the table, but man, I did not hear it. I was shocked. I did not think they were going to have Edge break the streak at all that year. That's surprising if they even considered it. We also have Stone Cold Steve Austin on this documentary, and next we get to the match with Shawn at 25. That's like one of my favorite matches ever. That's such an awesome match. Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 25. Then 26, he beats him, and he beat Shawn again, and that's when Shawn, of course, retires. I think 26 was the first time where he really became just a part-time guy. He would be on Raw and SmackDown. He came back later that year, I believe, but I think after that, that's when he started to just do part-time. He talks about having a 5-year stretch where he'd prepare for Mania, he'd have his Mania match, then he'd have some kind of surgery to repair whatever he had to get fixed. Here, Stone Cold talking about the road keeps you calloused, it keeps you bruised. It keeps you in the ring shape, and once you're wrestling once a year, and we heard Triple H talk about this as well, it beats you up really bad because you're only going to wrestle once a year, you're not used to it, your body's not conditioned to it. We see Taker and Austin talking backstage, which was really cool. Taker saying he's going to run until the wheels fall off. Next, we get 2 days before WrestleMania on the 31st in 2017. Taker talks about how the 2 matches he had with Shawn were pretty, he was pretty sore after both of them because he worked so hard, and of course the match with Triple H in Atlanta at WrestleMania 27. He says that was really brutal, and it was. He did not look good at all in that match. He did not look good. He looked old that match. It had a really good match. It wasn't as good as the 2 Shawn matches, but you can tell. That was the first time when I saw him, I was thinking to myself, looks like this probably should be it because this guy is moving a lot differently. He wins the match, but they have to take him out on the stretcher, and of course that builds up the next year at 28. He had to spend 2 full days in the hotel after Mania. Then he gets his hip replacement surgery, which was big. Comes back the following year against Triple H in the end of an era Hell in a Cell match with Shawn Michaels as a referee. He wins again, and of course the three of them walk out together, and they did the big hug on the ramp. It looked like that was going to be it for all three of them. Of course, it wouldn't be. He talked about how the match with Triple H was really good, which I thought it was great, and then he said the next match against Punk was not as good. It was pretty bad. It was a great match, though. I mean, Undertaker was very sloppy, but I thought CM Punk gave one of the best performances of his career in that match. Punk was just incredible there. He talks about the match with Brock at 30. He says still to this day he does not remember. He says he does not know when he got concussed. I think when he was going to give Brock that big boot and he went backwards onto the mat, or he took one of those German suplex early but concussed him. His last memory about that day was in 3:30 in the afternoon when he talked to his wife. He takes the third at 5. He loses the streak. It's the biggest shock in WrestleMania history. We see the shocked man in the front row. We've seen that a billion times. His name's Ellis, I believe. We see other shocked fans. One guy with his mouth, pretty much his jaw dropped. There's one guy who's almost crying. He's like using his hands down his face. He's so mad. There's a woman crying. People are shocked. There's a crazy moment. They show AJ Lee actually backstage in Gorilla. She goes to her match. Then we see Vince come in through the shadow of Gorilla, and he says, "Someone get here." We saw that at the WrestleMania 30 24 special. He's calling for help. We see Larry Heck, an athletic trainer. He says the Undertaker was sitting down in Gorilla, and he had this dazed look in his face. He's taken to the hospital that night, and there's a car behind them. There's an SUV behind them. Michelle says Vince and Brock. I'm surprised Brock was there, but both of them went to see the Undertaker at the hospital after the match. He just takes a brutal concussion. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know his name. He doesn't know why they're in New Orleans. He talks about how he got older, and he just he isn't taking any bumps, and it caught up to him. Then they go to the next year at 31, and he says it destroyed his confidence. And before his match with Bray Wyatt, they show him backstage on Gorilla, and he's basically taking a knee, and Triple H takes a knee with him. He says, "Remember who the fuck you are, you're the Undertaker." And this is crazy because it's insane to see him lose his confidence like that after he's been doing it for so long. He has the 2 matches with Brock later that year in 2015 at SummerSlam and Hell in a Cell. Then, of course, he has another Hell in a Cell match with Shane McMahon at WrestleMania 32. And there, they don't get into this, but I think he retired at that match too. After he beat Shane, he puts his gloves in the ring, and that's it. But he does never actually announce it, but it seemed like there was rumors that he did that and he retired. The 2017 Rumble is when he knows. I saw him in that match. He looked horrible. That's probably the worst I've ever seen him. He couldn't move. He could not move. They had to have guys go to him because he couldn't get to them. He talks about how it kills him that if there's a dad who watched him when he was young and he has to turn to his son now and says, he used to move a lot quicker when he, 10, 20 years ago. We see him at the Hall of Fame. He's interacting with guys. He's wearing just this button-up shirt and a pair of jeans because he can't show himself at the Hall of Fame, which is ridiculous. But they used to always have that rule at the Hall of Fame. Undertaker can't be there because of the character, but he's always there backstage with Vince at the Gorilla. I've always heard that, but he can't be there in character. It's ridiculous. But he's not at the Hall of Fame. But he's always there backstage. You see him interacting with them like a million wrestlers there. We see him shaking Bruno Sammartino's hand, which is really cool. We see him meeting with Kurt, and this is the year Kurt Angle goes into the Hall of Fame. And they had this cool flashback. They showed the two of them on a coach like in 2001 or 2000, and they're interacting. And that was back in the Attitude Era, probably in Vince's office. They would always do those segments with them talking. Those were really cool. Those segments backstage, man, Attitude Era was so much more fun. That gives me all those good memories. All the wrestlers were really entertaining. That was the thing too. It wasn't really just the matches or the storylines. It was how entertaining they all were backstage, and how much fun it was to watch a show and follow the characters and follow the show as a whole. It's a lot different now. It's like everyone's just going through the motions. You see various wrestlers, see Big Show, Mark Henry, all talking about how much respect they have of The Undertaker, because he was pretty much a leader of the locker room backstage. That's something that just kind of came to him. He was never really someone who, he said he never really sought out to be a leader, just it happened over time. And he just had so much respect from his peers, he eventually just got that position. See more guys talking about him, Scott Hall, JBL. JBL even says he never seen Undertaker in worse shape physically before WrestleMania. He can barely walk. He's limping. Edge actually makes a really good comparison to Brett Favre when he was playing for the Vikings, and he still shows those flashes, but it's not all there. They showed The Undertaker talking to Roman Reigns backstage at the Hall of Fame. They show him talking to Roman's wife and interacting with them. It was really cool. This was a really cool moment, him interacting with them. I like this a lot, actually. This is one of the best parts of the show, or the whole documentary. I thought Roman came off well. I thought Taker, both of them. It was cool seeing them interact. Once we leave the Hall of Fame, we see him at WrestleMania and doing basically getting prepared for the match with Roman. Day of WrestleMania 33, they show the stadium, the sunset, and man, that was still the best set ever at WrestleMania. Nothing's ever come close, I think. You just have a monster. You have the stage in which you have a giant globe like the Disney or the Universal Studios logo, except it's WrestleMania. You have two giant, actually a giant roller coaster on the right side, and on the left side you have another ride. I think that's supposed to just be a drop tower on the left. And you have a setup on the entrance stage that's basically this. It has like this gold lighting or something that holds up the globe, which looks cool. You have the 80-yard ramp. Then, of course, you have the ring set up on top of the canopy above the ring. It's a giant ring. It's by far the greatest setup they've ever done for WrestleMania. We see him interacting with numerous wrestlers backstage. They see him, Undertaker, talking to Chris Jericho. And Jericho appears on this documentary. I'm surprised because with Jericho is in AEW, so that was, I did not expect to see that. We also see Jim Ross here, who's also in AEW, so we see both him and Jericho. We saw Matt Hardy make an appearance on there backstage, so it's I think it's because Undertaker is making a special exception, and eventually they're going through his career again, and finally we get to the match with Roman. This is the most graphic part. Before the match, he has to take a massive shot of cortisone to his knee. A lot of football players get this too when they have bad knees. It's just painful. The needle is massive. It goes into him and looks brutal. And he can barely walk that show. So he has to do this so he can get it through the match. It gives him about 3 to 4 hours of power in his knee. He has the match, and it was a rough match. He takes a lot of chair shots. He takes a spear through the announce table. He has, it looks like part where he can beat Roman, but of course he does not. The fans really didn't like Roman at this time. Probably was most hated. I remember after the show, the night after Roman wins, he has the infamous promo when the fans are after WrestleMania are yelling at him. They're chanting "F you, Roman." He tells them this is my year now. Also, Undertaker's entrance was cool. They had him come through halfway, so he can't do the 80-yard walk. No one wants to see that. They show Michelle McCool in the front row, and she's sitting right next to Roman's family, Roman's dad and his mother. Because that's a Sikh guy, I can tell. Taker takes a giant spear, and that's the match. Also, I forgot to mention that horrible botched tombstone spot. Oh, that was rough. Match is over. He sits up. They play the sad Undertaker music on the piano. This is similar to the music they played in the 24 special for WrestleMania 30 after he lost his streak. It's a really good piece. It's his music played on the piano. He puts his ring gear, all his gear back on after the match, puts his gloves in the ring, puts his jacket down, and then he puts his hat on top. He kisses his wife. He walks up the ramp, and smoke and fire, and it's all dark. He puts his arm up, and he's lowered down halfway through. And the show just ends after everything goes black. And that's how WrestleMania ended that year. It seemed like that was the end of The Undertaker. When he walks back, the first person he sees in the hall is Triple H. And they have a big hug. And Triple H says, "Hell of a run." That was a cool moment for sure. Really respectful. Triple H clearly has a lot of respect for Taker. They really felt this was it for The Undertaker. And boy, we're really wrong. But on this night, it seemed like it was. He gets a standing ovation in the back. He goes to the training room. He gets the cortisone shot out of his knee. And then, of course, we see Vince in the trainer's room. Vince says thank you to The Undertaker. We hear from Vince McMahon. He says it's just his quote, "Everyone can sense he's trying, but he's not there." That's what he said of The Undertaker. That's how Chapter 1 ends. We have a preview of Chapter 2, which looks really cool. That starts next Sunday is Chapter 2, and that's it for Chapter 1. Undertaker, The Last Ride, The Greatest Fear of Chapter 1. I thought it was very good. I'm looking forward to next week.